The Death of Gimbals, a Gimbal Killer. I've seen these titles used on YouTube videos, but often feel like it's a big mistake because a gimbal does more than just stabilizing. So a lot of them often use these titles for, oh, this is a new camera with a 5-axis stabilization that is super stable. However, a gimbal does more than stabilization, and there is quite a lot of features. So a gimbal might have been in the past, when they just started up, be only for stabilization, because in the infancy there was only a chip and also basically a stabilization chip or gyro chip, and then basically 3-axis motors or 3 brushless motors, enabling it to stabilize and not really have much features, then enable you to have like few modes of lock mode, a pan follow mode, and full follow mode. But over time it has actually changed. But back then, even with those 3 modes, it was enough to get you to do movements that were more than stabilization. So for example, if you have it in lock mode and move the camera holding from left to right, you could get like a slider-like shot, which is maybe possible with a stabilized camera, but sometimes because your hands will slightly pan or even tilt a little, these might go into the shots when you're moving the camera and enable even to see that your camera is slightly swaying around. Also, you can put a gimbal on top of a monopod and then move it up and down, and that will get you a jib-like shot. So that would replace a jib. And really with that, it is more difficult to move a camera handheld from really low to really high by just holding the camera, because even putting a camera alone on a monopod won't get you the same kind of effect. Of course, when the gimbals got like more functions with especially their own menu or with the app capabilities, there were more features added. For example, like remote control, so you could just remote control your gimbal with your phone. So for example, you could put your gimbal on a tripod, and if you're doing a live stream, you could remotely control it from a distance to do a pan or tilt just to aim correctly at your subject. But also, for example, put your gimbal on top of a 7-meter pole and do like pan tilt movements. So you get like a drone-like shot or an aerial shot from really high up instead of having an actual drone. Motion time-lapse, so you can get pan and tilt movements while doing a time-lapse, getting more dynamic moving time-lapses. But also putting your phone on top of your camera and on the gimbal, enabling to do object tracking, is a very interesting thing, because often handheld, trying to do like hyperlapse where you're following an object or trying to keep the camera aimed at a certain object, it is often very difficult. And having object tracking enable you just to walk around and it automatically follow an object. But also doing this like putting your gimbal on top of a slider and it's panning and moving around an object and holding the framing on the same object. But this can now, instead of putting your phone on top of the gimbal, we now have image transmission. So we have like image transmission from the Weebill or even like the new Weebill S, but you need to buy an extra image transmission module. And with that, we can do image transmission and directly do an object tracking without having to put your phone on top of the gimbal itself, and you can just control it via the Wi-Fi on your phone. So right now there's so many possibilities possible with a gimbal, and in the future would be even more possibilities or even more features added and more things possible with a gimbal than we might think right now. So the Death of Gimbals and a Gimbal Killer, I doubt just stabilization would kill off a gimbal, because there's so much more than that. However, something that might be able to do a lot of things similar to a gimbal without a gimbal is a 360 camera. But with a 360 camera, it films basically everything, and you can just crop your video in a way that it looks like that it's following an object, but also for like jib-like shots or for a slider-like shot, for a lot of different things, it can kind of mimic what you can film with a gimbal. However, the biggest difference with a 360 camera compared to using a gimbal is of course the lens. So with 360 camera, everything is in focus, while with a proper gimbal, you could have like special lenses, like macro lenses, where you're actually focusing on something very small, or you're using something with a fast lens and you have like a nice depth of field with the background blurred. So that is a big difference. With using a gimbal, you might get more special shots that looks much more much more cinematic, while with like a 360 camera, everything is in focus and just looks like an actual action cam footage. So overall, for me, I doubt there be something that is really a gimbal killer, because there is so much possible with a gimbal. And overall, yeah, the gimbal's gonna have a bright future with a lot of new features added over the years, and also the gimbals will of course become much smaller over time with much more stronger, smaller motors. So and also over time will become lighter to use, because like the bigger the cameras right now, also the heavier the gimbals. But we might see some composite material or like motors that can be lightweight but also enable to hold heavy weights. So yeah, the gimbal future will still be there, and we'll see quite a lot of changes over time, but still I doubt that anything can do so many things that a gimbal can actually do and enable to really replace or kill off gimbals. So that was my opinion about this matter. I hope you found this a very interesting video. If you have anything you want to discuss, make sure to comment it here below. And if you want to see more videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button here below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.